I am a martial arts instructor, a personal trainer, and also a surf instructor. My father is a grandmaster of Taekwondo, so at a really young age, my sister and I were just fortunate enough to kind of be brought up in that atmosphere, that martial arts community. It took me many years to obtain my black belt, lost pounds of blood, sweat, and tears, took a lot of hard work. Definitely looking back in my experience and what I accomplished just proves to me that I can accomplish anything once I put my mind to it, and that goes for this game and being claimed the next sole survivor. And I know it's gonna be tough out there. People are gonna be bumming for all sorts of reasons, lack of food, just being tired. I naturally bring this spirit about myself, this energetic side of myself that hopefully is contagious and people can feed off of that. Hopefully, you know, I can bring up their spirits by just my smile, I guess.
If people underestimate him, they're in trouble because he's not underestimating you. Then I think people might think, I can beat him. I'll keep him around.
Every season of Survivor is a story. There are main characters, sidekicks, comic reliefs, and villains. A good season of Survivor tells a compelling story that has you rooting for someone and against someone else in hopes that it all ends in a satisfying conclusion. Each story that we look at together will go through one character's journey. From beginning to end, we will look at every character moment and strategic move to determine whether they were a hero or a villain and whether they were a good or bad strategist. And with that, welcome to Once Upon an Island. For reference, we are only going to be observing what the TV show is showing us and what stories being told through the show. No future seasons will be mentioned, but I may include secret scenes and behind the scenes footage to flesh out the story being told, and all character moments and strategic moves are interpreted with the mindset of what the story is trying to tell us. And now with that,
39 days, 18 people, 1 survivor.
Survivor's back in the Philippines for the 4th time, and this time there is a new twist. The tribes are split up by brains, brawn, and beauty, with Wu, a 29-year-old martial arts instructor from California, being on the brawn tribe. I will not waste your time or mine. Despite the runtime equivalent of 2 episodes for the premiere of the season, Wu is basically invisible. The brains tribe is a mess, so they get a lot of screen time. And at one point, Wu's tribe mate Tony is talking about the game and he refers to Wu as a weasel. Why? I don't know. There was no context for the comment. He just says it and we just move along. Okay then. Their tribe wins both immunity challenges this episode and we really only get one segment dedicated to Wu. And this is it.
What do you do for a living, Cliff? I work in sports marketing. You should be playing sports. I played a little basketball.
I have a few of your basketball cards, I'm not gonna lie. Me being a basketball enthusiast, I immediately knew who that was. Cliff Robinson, Portland Trailblazers, one of my favorite players growing up, and everyone seems stoked to have him on our tribe.
Look at these guys, they look like real islanders out there, don't they?
Yeah. You know, I like Wu, and you gotta have a wingman. Batman always had Robin, Jordan had Pippen, Cliff has Wu. Wu-Tang. So, you know, you just gotta, you know, take your wingman and do what you gotta do to take care of business. Uh-oh.
Aside from that moment, who is Wu? I barely know, and I hope that changes in the next episode or two. You can pick what videos I make. The patrons on Patreon pick this video and you can too. You will also gain the benefit of watching everything up to 6 months early and help us avoid shilling products that nobody wants and unnecessary sponsored segments. If you are interested, then there's a link in the description. Thank you for your support. Now with that, it is now episode 2, and does the show now care about Wu? For like 3 seconds, you see it is storming hard and we get a confessional from Wu saying, "This is so exciting." That's it, and while we see everyone else huddling in the shelter or working on it, Wu is mysteriously not present. Could it be because he was supposedly sneaking into production's tents and taking food and getting shelter there when he thought he wouldn't get caught, and actually he turns out he was caught, but the show never addresses this and that's why everyone calls him a weasel, but again the show will never address that, that's why everyone calls him a weasel? I don't know, maybe, just a guess though. Anyways, Cliff and Wu win immunity for their tribe, and in episode 3, Tony is spreading lies about Cliff and Lindsay to Sarah. Sarah, falls for it, says, I gotta get out Cliff and Lindsay, and then talks to Woo herself.
I like Cliff, but the thing is like he doesn't need the money.
Right.
We do.
Right.
And if we lose, him next, Cliff.
B.
Okay. Woo surprised me that he would flip on Cliff.
I saw Woo and Sarah whispering something, and I said, you know what, let me go see what's going on. So I go up to them, and they look like this, like a deer in headlights as soon as I walked up. So I pulled Sarah to the side. Hey, Sarah, what's going on?
Woo is in with us.
Are you sure?
I am positive.
A few days ago, I went to Sarah and I fed her some kind of lie, telling her that I heard Cliff and Lindsay talking about her. And I think from that moment on, I think I changed the game by having her on my side.
Wow, Woo was willing to flip on Cliff that fast. That seems strange since Woo has been shown to be close to Cliff and really no one else. But again, we're in episode 3. And again, we didn't really hear what Woo's thoughts were. I mean, not that deeply. And he's been a nobody in the story so far. So what do we really know? Crucial information is being hidden from the viewers. I mean, why is he called Weasel Woo? Sarah then conspires to throw the immunity challenge to get Cliff out, and she fails at this. Braun still wins immunity, and it is all because the Brains tribe sucks just that hard. Like, despite Braun trying to throw the challenge, Brains still lose. We then jump to episode 4, where it is time. Tribe swap. Woo goes to Solana, where the entire Braun tribe is, minus Sarah, along with 2 beauty members. Perfect. Their tribe then wins reward because Cliff is basically a video game cheat code in this game. And back at camp, we see Woo and Cliff being friends.
Oh, we can reenact the.
Oh, no, I don't want the game of death.
Yeah. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
No.
I think Cliff is a great guy. I get along with Cliff really well. He's got a great sense of humor about himself, and we're still clicking out there. We're still throwing jokes. We're still laughing, and it's a good feeling. I feel like he's a friend.
And then when he unleashed the kick on him, when he came across the, he came across like, wow!
And then he straight stomped on him.
After spending 12 days on the beach together, I mean, you get to know some things about one another. And me and Woo, we were able to form a good rapport, an alliance, so to speak. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a really good kid. And I'm sure we'll be friends after it's done.
Now that was a secret scene, but isn't it still strange that Woo would flip on this man for Sarah? I don't buy it. Where's the logic? Well, their tribe loses immunity, and as it turns out, Woo may have just been telling Sarah what she wanted to hear because he's with Cliff and Lindsay. Oh yeah, they're all aligning to vote out LJ, a beauty member. However, Woo says, I don't think my Braun tribe members will flip on their own, so we all should be voting together. We'll see. So they all vote, and
First vote, LJ. LJ. Cliff. Cliff. We're tied. 2 votes Cliff, 2 votes LJ. That's 3 votes LJ. Cliff. We're tied. 5th person voted out of Survivor Cagayan. Cliff. Cliff, tribe has spoken.
Good luck, guys.
Time for go.
Cliff is gone, and Woo had nothing to do with it. Back at camp, Trish and Lindsay are verbally fighting a lot. This has been an on-again, off-again thing for them all season, but here it's kind of reached its climax. How so, you may be asking? Well, besides the fighting intensifying, Lindsay quits the game. She tells Jeff, I need the $1 million more than anyone else here, so I'm quitting. Well, dang, I mean, okay, that's what? That is 2 Braun members gone in a matter of hours, and the logic here is just impeccable. When Jeff delivers this news, Woo does his best to remain positive.
It's almost like, all right, now we can start fresh. Here we are, solid
it's almost
vibes. Prior to Tribal Council, I was aligned with Cliff and Lindsay. So for Cliff and Lindsay to be gone, now it puts me in a really tough position. If we were to go to Tribal Council, I could definitely project myself going.
We may not know much about Woo, but what we do know is that he likes to be positive come rain or shine. We then go to the reward challenge where Spencer beats Woo, but then on the rematch, Woo beats Spencer, netting them the reward win. With this reward win, Tony and Woo get to go to the other camp and steal some supplies, but more importantly is that they get a clue to an idol on their own beach. Tony decides to instead pretend that this idol clue that is clearly for him and Woo is actually for the other tribe, the tribe that they're visiting right now, and he gives it to Jeremiah to try to put a target on his back. Wu is complicit in all of this tomfoolery because the goal is to put a target on Jeremiah, and I believe it's to keep the target off of Sarah, who's kind of by herself in this tribe. We then see LJ and Wu win their tribe immunity, and when they do, Tony screams about how they are the top 5 in front of everybody. Mind you, even after the other tribe goes to tribal in this episode, they'll still have 6 members. Oh, and now it's time for the merge. Wu's tribe enters the merge down 6-5, and yes, they have agreed to be allied against the opposing tribe. However, Sarah is on that opposing tribe, and a Sarah flip to them could be all they need to gain power and steamroll this game. Before everyone feasts though, they do get a note saying that somewhere out in the woods is the Super Idol. Now the Super Idol is something we have not seen since seasons 12 and 13, where you can play it after the votes are read. It is way overpowered, and I'm surprised they brought it back. This is huge though. We then see Wu doing yoga with the ladies, and at the immunity challenge, he beats Tony. This is a very quiet episode for Wu, as he is not needing to be convinced of flipping and is not part of the team that is convincing anyone else to flip. But basically, everything hinges on Sarah. They need Sarah to flip. So they all vote at tribal, and
If anybody has a hidden immunity idol and you want to play it, now would be the time to do so. Yes, this is a hidden immunity idol.
I would like to give it to LJ.
All right, any votes cast for LJ will not count.
I'd like to cover Tony's ass myself.
This is also a hidden immunity idol, so any votes for Tony will not count either. First vote. Jeffra. Sarah. 2 votes Jeffra, 2 votes Sarah. Sarah. Jeffra. We're tied again. Jeffra. Sarah. Tied again. Jeffra. Sarah. We're tied. 5 votes Jeffra, 5 votes Sarah, 1 vote left. 7th person voted out, the first member of our jury. Sarah.
Bang, bang.
Sarah, the tribe has spoken.
Gas, 0 chance of winning the game. It's a long way to go.
I got a little beef with Tony, you know? He's stressed swearing on your badge, and he was telling me I swear on my badge, you know, this and that, and maybe his badge doesn't mean to him what my badge means to me, but if I'm gonna swear on my badge, I'm gonna keep that word. And I definitely think by swearing on his badge and stuff like that, that's definitely a black eye on his. And I told him I wouldn't write his name down. I didn't write his name down. I feel bad for Tony's partners, kind of. Does he really have their backs? Who knows?
we will be including the jury's final words and Ponderosa videos to help flesh out the story. The next episode sees Wu's team sadly lose reward, and Spencer gets to go instead. While on said reward, Spencer gets an idol clue in secret, and when he gets back to camp, it's pouring rain, and yet he's out and about. Wu says, isn't it a bit sus that Spencer's just out in the rain for fun, unless he has an idol clue?
I'm gonna pull out something out of my arsenal, which is my ninja stealth mode. You better believe I'm gonna be lurking from the shadows. Boom, I spot him. I go to pick up his pants, and as soon as I do, boom, out pops the clue to the idol. I hightail it, boom, Sonic the Hedgehog style. I'm cruising through the path. There's no way he's catching me.
I knew that pandemonium was about to ensue.
I'm pissed off.
Oh wow, very devious by Wu. Spencer still gets the idol at the end of the day, not that Wu knows this, but Wu might have made an enemy with Spencer in the process. Spencer then wins immunity, and now the debate is between voting off Morgan, who is super lazy, or Tasha, who can win challenges. So they all vote at tribal, and
8th person voted out, and the 2nd member of our jury, Morgan. Morgan, the tribe has spoken.
We talked about everything. We talked about how much we hate Cass. She's like, nobody included me in any conversation.
Did you hear her? She goes, no one would look me in the eyes. That's the first thing she said.
You
Right?
baby.
That's exactly what I was saying.
I'll be frank, I hate her. I do not like her, and she pretty much ruined my chance of getting in the final 6.
The next episode sees Woo's team losing reward, and yet again he says, dang, I was hoping to get a mani-pedi while having a nice fatty chicken wrap, though he says it with a lot more charisma than I can. Even when Woo is complaining, he keeps it sounding positive. What a solid dude. Tasha then wins immunity, the thing they feared in the prior episode, so Tony talks to Woo about an unconventional plan.
Here's the deal. I'm not gonna wait to get a punch thrown at me by LJ. He said he was willing to blindside Woo. It's true, I kinda set him up, but I don't care. I'm gonna try to pin all the troublemaking around camp on LJ. I don't know, man. LJ's shady. He wants to blindside you, bro, and I don't like that.
I was 100% down with the 6, but apparently LJ, Mr. Con Man, for some reason wants to blindside me. If he's coming to Tony, my closest ally, and saying Woo is gonna go, we might have to make a big move before he does.
Heads up, Woo is falling for Tony's plan, hook, line, and sinker. LJ is a loyal member to their alliance, and Tony had to force LJ to even consider voting off Woo. And I mean, it was a very weak consideration when LJ said it, like, I don't buy it at all. Tony had to extrapolate it out of him. The reality is that Tony sees LJ as a threat and sees that Woo is probably the most gullible and is taking full advantage. Trish says she is gullible, but I would argue Woo might be even more than her. LJ has not made any plans to flip or blindside at all, and yet we're going to tribal council, and I think you know what's about to happen.
First vote, LJ. Spencer, 1 vote Spencer. Jeremiah. LJ. Jeremiah. LJ, that's 3 votes LJ. Jeremiah, 3 votes Jeremiah, 3 votes LJ. LJ, 9th person voted out, the 3rd member of our jury. LJ, need to bring me a torch. LJ, tribe has spoken. Time to go.
Good luck.
What happened?
I have no idea. Well, actually, I think I think Woo and Tony.
Tony? Sucks. To feel like you can trust people and then they stab you in the back. Yeah.
Back at camp, chaoses abound. Why was LJ blindsided? Oh, very valid question. And Tony takes all of the heat for this while Woo stays quiet. Very smart of him. We then see that for a 3rd time in a row, Woo loses reward, and then Tasha wins her 2nd immunity. So the plan this time is to vote off Spencer or Jeremiah. Either one is good for their alliance, but in the meantime, Woo and Trish go and get some fruit out of a tree.
Nice. Oh. That branch that I had in my right hand was a dead branch that I didn't realize. And from there, I was trying to pull Sylvester Stallone, like, cliffhanger, like, swing my left hand, and as soon as I swing it, snap, I'm like, oh, boom.
Holy crap, that had to hurt. Woo may be 29, but that has to be bruised or at least bugging him the rest of the time he's out here, right? We then go to tribal council where Spencer boldly calls out Tony's game, saying, hey, Tony is setting himself up to win. Is this true? That's a story to be told in Tony's video. But for now, it is important to note that Tony is the leader of the majority alliance, and Spencer recognizes this and he's like, hey guys, let's get rid of Tony. So they all vote, and
10th person voted out, the 4th member of our jury, Jeremiah. Jeremiah, the tribe has spoken.
Love y'all, good luck. I let 2 women, well, I didn't let them. 2 women screwed my whole game up. The first one was Cash. We went into the final merge as 11 people, and we were 6 strong. Well, she turned her back on all of us, voted out Sarah. I was on cloud 9. She chopped my feet out for money. I'm on cloud 1. Dang it, you messed me up. Cass definitely messed me up.
Lots of these jurors are salty about Cass, but I find it more important that all these days later, Spencer shoves it in Woo's face that he did indeed find the idol. But now it is time, the Survivor auction. Finally, a reward Woo can't lose, right? Right? And lose he does not actually, as he nets himself some awesome barbecue ribs for only 40 bucks. What a steal.
Tender,
Juicy.
lathered in barbecue, flavorful.
Woo is such a goof. The real reason he got those ribs for cheap is because Tony, Spencer, and Tasha held all of their money until an idol clue pops up. Tony ends up winning that idol clue, and he does indeed find the idol back at camp and shows it to his alliance, Woo included. This dude is something else. Tasha then wins her 3rd immunity in a row, and now the plan is to vote off Spencer. But before they do, Woo says, remember that tree I fell out of? I want to go back up it.
So I'm on a stroll and I hear Woo and Tony screaming and making ridiculous jungle noises, so why not? I'll follow and see what's going on. It's clear that they're up to some shady business. Turns out that Woo and Tony found a secret stash of papayas. They weren't exactly planning on sharing with the tribe. They offered to let me in on this hoard of papayas that we're going to keep from the girls.
Woo has coconuts of steel, or maybe papaya steel, since that's what he's actually getting. But get this, while the plan is to vote off Spencer, Tony wants to do yet another flip on his alliance, this time to get out Jeffra. And again, Woo is in on it. I mean, Tony's just getting rid of these beauty members that are aligned with him. I guess why not? Not like Jeffra was closely aligned with Woo or anything. Tony will take the heat anyways, so they all voted tribal, and
11th person voted out and the 5th member of our jury. Jeffra. Jeffra, the tribe has spoken.
Good luck, guys. It's been fun.
I suspect Woo and Tony because I haven't been able to trust Woo all along since he came to the Solana tribe. His nickname was Weasel Woo, and he's betrayed everyone's trust. And he's like Tony's little puppet. He follows everything that Tony says. So if Tony wanted to get me out because Tony doesn't trust me, because Tony's given me a lot of reasons not to trust him, then Woo went right along with it, I'm sure.
again with the Weasel Woo comments. I wish the show would actually show us how he got that nickname. Back at camp, people are ticked at Tony again, especially Cass. You see, Cass got to flip on Sarah and smirk about it. That's what happened back at that merge vote. So when Tony flipped on LJ once, that was okay by Cass. She's like, flips happen. It's okay. But now that he has flipped twice, she's like, oh no, that's one too many times. So her and Tony just fight a lot. It's nonsensical. Cass is being very hypocritical, but that's what Cass's video is for. Check that one out. Woo's team finally wins reward, and on said reward,
today's reward was a phenomenal opportunity to give back to the Filipino community and to be an ambassador for Survivor. And the moment we come out is just mob deep of all these beautiful young people.
Yes, book bags!
It was phenomenal.
You need a book bag!
I loved Woo doing his martial arts and being an entertainer. Definitely in his element. Woo's usually quiet, and this is the most he's spoken in 31 days is to, 100 kids.
Woo is a natural entertainer, and I would not be surprised if he were recruited for the show. We then see Cass and Spencer talk to him about making a move on Tony, who Tony is clearly running the game and is the top dog to win it all. And yet, Woo is not committing to the idea. And this works? I'm sorry, what? I gotta check my notes. Woo does not commit to their plan to flip on Tony, and this works. Cass and Spencer think that Woo is being thoughtful, when really, he just isn't outright saying no. Huh, okay then. We then see Tony ask Woo about any conversations he had with Cass and Spencer, and he lies, and Tony knows he is lying. Spencer then wins immunity, and the plan is to vote off Tasha, so they all vote, and
Tasha. Trish. Tony. That's 2 votes, Tasha. 12th person voted out, the 6th member of our jury. Tasha. Tasha, tribe has spoken.
My advice for the castaways still playing this game, get rid of Tony before he gets rid of you.
Back at camp, Spencer asks Woo why he didn't stick with him at the last vote and why he lied to him. Basically, if Spencer goes to the jury, at this point, I don't see why he would vote for Woo to win after Woo burned him twice. Tony then talks to Woo and says, hey, I think you, me, and Cass would be the best final 3 because no one's voting for Cass to win. Everyone hates her. I mean, based on what we've seen so far, that is true. Tony also thinks he can beat Woo, and considering how many people Tony has made mad so far, I can see why Woo thinks he could beat Tony at the end. Woo then confesses to Tony the truth about the conversation he had on reward with Cass and Spencer, and Tony says, good, I can trust Woo again, which leads to...
I did consider blindsiding Tony, but it's a move that I decided not to make because honestly, I feel like sitting next to Tony at the end of the game, top 3 would be a lovely thing since we started this game together. So I need him to see me as someone that wouldn't backstab him, someone who would be loyal to him to the end.
Woo feels loyal to Tony, and to be fair, Tony has looped in Woo on every move he has made so far in the post-merge. However, Tony says one day, I will need to blindside my dear friend Woo because he might get enough votes from the jury to stop me from winning. Looking at this from Tony's point of view, I can definitely see the jury being mad at him and voting Woo. It just depends on the season, depends on the jury. Cass then talks to Woo and says, hey, Tony made a final 3 deal with me. Yeah, Woo already knows this. I mean, we already know this. We saw Tony talk to Woo about it on the boat, and yet Woo claims he didn't know this, and now he says, I don't trust Tony as much as I did before. Woo, were you listening on the boat? Tony very explicitly said this. It was so clear. Am I missing something? Tony told him he wants to go to the final 3 with him, Woo, and Cass. That's the final 3, and Woo heard this. This shouldn't be news, and yet Woo acts like it is. Spencer wins immunity and then talks to Woo about getting out Trish, since she is Tony's right-hand woman and they can't really go for Tony directly due to his idol, so this is the next best thing. We then see Cass and Trish fight, and at this point, who actually likes Cass? I'm being for real. No one speaks positively about her at all. So we go to Tribal Council where Tony reveals not only does he have the regular idol, but he actually has the super idol that he claims is good through the final 4. What the heck? So they all vote, and
if anybody has a hidden immunity idol and you want to play it, now would be the time to do so.
Jeff, I don't need to play, but I have no use for this thing.
This is a hidden immunity idol. Any votes cast against Tony will not count. First vote, Trish. Cass. Trish. 2 votes, Trish. 13th person voted out, the 7th member of our jury. Trish, that's 3, it's enough. Need to bring me your torch. Trish, tribe has spoken.
Thank you. Good luck. I had a feeling that Woo was going to flip.
Tony, I think Tony did too.
I could see it in Tony's face. When he said my vote is not an emotional vote, it's based on gameplay, I knew right away you were done.
No way.
Couldn't even look up, and the whole time he just had his eyes closed when you were going because he turned on you.
it is finale time. Does Woo have a chance of being Spencer and Tony? We know he can beat Cass, but what about the other two? And at this moment, Tony has a guaranteed idol to final 3. I thought they would not have done that again. They did it in seasons 12 and 13. So the fact that this idol is good through final 4 is insanity to me. Let's not dwell on that for too long because it's the family visit, which is emotional for everyone. Though Woo is not focused on too much when it happens. Cass then wins the final 4 immunity challenge, which means that Cass, Tony, and either Spencer or Woo should be in the final 3. However, Jeff does not indicate that this season is a standard final 3. In fact, he doesn't mention final tribal council at all, meaning that this season is going old school with the final 2. Holy crap, there's gonna be 2 more tribals instead of 1. Interesting, especially since it seemed like a locked final 3 with Tony, Woo, and Cass. So Cass talks to Woo and says, we have to get out Spencer, even if we have a tie vote with Tony.
I don't recall that happens if it's a tie in the final 4. I know I won't be able to vote. Spencer won't be able to vote. Then if it goes to another tie, then man, we're gonna have to draw rocks. The jury. We fight for it. I don't know. What happens? Is the first one to be able to make a fire?
Hilarious, but at the same time, come on. Woo had to be a recruiter for the show, right? If you were a fan who watched the show up to this point, you already knew fire making was the way to go. And Woo looks like a producer's off camera trying to mouth the words fire making to him. He's like, fight? I think that's what was happening. We go to tribal council where Spencer pitches voting off Woo instead of him. Wait, hold up. No, stop it right now, Spencer. Don't vote off Woo. Thankfully, no one is really listening, Spencer, as they all vote and...
Jeff, it says this idol can be played after the votes are read. That's the special powers that this idol has. However, it could only be played with 5 remaining players left. That's the last time I could play it. Today there's only 4, so this idol's absolutely useless tonight.
First vote, Spencer. Woo, 1 vote Spencer, 1 vote Woo. Spencer, that's 2 votes Spencer. 14th person voted out, and the 8th member of our jury. Spencer, need to bring me your torch? Spencer, the tribe has spoken.
We can hug. How you guys doing? Hey, give me a spot. Awesome.
I hope that you were hanging in there. We were pulling for you.
Thanks. Last hope. That's not what I want to hear.
That is why he had to go. He would have won. Also, Tony's a son of a gun. That dude lied about his super idol. And it worked. I mean, good for him. But dang, they could have got Tony if they wanted to. We then see Cass and Woo agree to take each other to the final 2, saying that taking Tony to the end would be stupid. They both say that. They say, if we take Tony to the end, that would be dumb, which is correct. I'm glad they both see that. Wu basically has a guaranteed win against Cass. Tony just cannot win the final immunity challenge. It's that simple. So we go to said final immunity challenge where Wu beats Cass by 1 second. Wow, that was close. Wu is so excited about his win that he even does a backflip. But believe it or not, despite how cut and dry this decision appears, it apparently is not.
I would feel more comfortable sitting at the end with Tony. This is the guy I started with. This is the guy I committed myself with. But at the end of the day, like, taking Tony means my chances of winning are not so great. If I take someone like Cass, you know, and I break my loyalty with Tony, it completely contradicts who I am, and I become the biggest hypocrite. So it's tough. I want to be the sole survivor and to have $1 million.
There is no way Wu's about to. No, he cannot vote out Cass over Tony if his goal in this game is to win. The show is clearly just wasting our time trying to act like there's a decision to be made so we don't tune out. Yeah, Wu's obviously torn between loyalty and honor to a man who has none, or the easy win against Cass. I mean, let's be real, he's not really torn. But let's pretend he is, right? If he is, let's say Wu's actually torn between the two decisions. He's essentially in the same position Colby Donaldson was in season 2, and Wu makes the same choice. Believe it or not, Cass is voted out, and he is taking Tony to the final 2. I am blown away.
I think he made a horrific $1 million decision. I think he actually could have beaten me. I certainly won't vote for him. That speech, I'm giving it to who's most deserving, basically told me I'm bringing the person I think you should vote for. So, Wu. Stupid, stupid, stupid. It was awkward when I walked into Ponderosa. No one acknowledged my existence.
Cass came in, and it was really uncomfortable.
Nobody has any digs for me? Come on.
Once someone goes, I'm not talking to her, and then the next person goes, yeah, me either.
What do you have to say to someone like her? And her whole thing is, I played the game. I'm Chaos Cass. That's what I want. You know, it's not a game that anyone can really respect. You know, she was an agitator, and she got under people's skins, and she played with people's heads, and she was a troublemaker, and she was mean.
Cass isn't even going to vote for Wu. That's the worst part. In fact, I think that's the worst part just in general. If you're gonna vote somebody off in a very controversial, risky decision, at least know they're gonna vote for you. It isn't like he put a guaranteed number for himself on the jury. But at the end of the day, Wu did what he wanted. He knows the risk, and he knows what he's doing here, I think. He even tells us that by taking Tony, the jury will respect him more. I mean, maybe.
Just picture it now. Sole survivor, young Wu Hwang, winner of $1 million. And I can picture proposing to Christina Hamilton, my lovely girlfriend, after getting permission from her mom and dad, of course. It means a jump start to my future. To start up my Taekwondo studio I always dreamed of, and to have a family, being able to help my father retire. My mother, who suffered a heart attack, is disabled, and so I can change their lives, you know? Man, I'm this close, this close.
Can Wu pull off the upset of the century against Tony, or was it game over the moment he picked Tony over Cass? Well, he's now faced with a 9-man jury. How many votes will Wu realistically get? We shall see. He opens up Final Tribal with,
I came into this game knowing it's a game of lies, manipulation. It was probably one of the hardest challenges that I would have to face. We all had her down in this game, and you gotta pull something out within you to inspire you, to motivate you to keep going. And for me, it was remembering my mom, who suffered a heart attack last year, underwent a major heart transplant. She went through a grueling recovery. To me, she was a true testament of what willpower, strength, and resilience was all about. And it was a constant reminder to never give up, to fight every day to survive. Thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to answering any specific questions you guys might have.
On one hand, I like how honest he is on an emotional level. We have seen in past seasons where the emotional pitch can sway a select number of jurors. However, he did not give one logical or strategic reason to vote for him, and that is no bueno. If you're gonna do emotional, you have to also do logical. It's good to mix in both. We then run through the gambit of jurors, which sees Sarah tick at Tony for swearing on his badge and making it mean nothing. She then asks Woo who he would have voted for if she was sitting next to Tony, and she played the exact same game as Woo. And Woo smartly says, I would vote for you, Sarah. And here's the thing, I believe Woo. I don't think he's lying at all. Jeffra then doesn't talk to Woo at all. Morgan says the thing Woo is expecting, which is that she respects him taking Tony to the end over Cass, who she says absolutely no one likes. Well then, and that's when we get to Cass, who says,
Woo, the integrity of the game is to have the winner make the right moves. You didn't make a move when you could have that would have won you $1 million.
You know, last night I had a huge responsibility on my hand. For me, in my field of studies, I'm a man who's trying to be honorable no matter what. $1 million means a whole bunch to me. But I felt that my power move to bring along someone that deserved to be here would give me points from the jury.
So you brought someone who deserved it more than you to get points for yourself.
We're all deserving, Cass. But between the two of you, I didn't feel like you deserved to sit here next to me. But Tony did.
Dang, Woo. I mean, he was kind of in a no-win situation here after voting her off at the last tribal council, but yeah. Dang, Woo, that was still the wrong answer to give. Jeremiah then asked Woo if he even really wants the $1 million, aka the 600 grand after Obama takes it, and Woo says yes. I assume Jeremiah is asking since he knows taking Cass was the easy way to win. Tasha then asks Woo why he picked aligning with Tony over everyone else in the game, and Woo says at one point, Tony thought he was a weasel. And that was it. It was a lot of words. I mean, Woo says a lot more words than that, but really, he just doesn't say anything. It's just kind of nonsensical. It's a bad answer. We then see LJ only talk to Tony and not Woo. Trish then rips into Tony hard, followed by asking Woo whose idea it was to vote her off, and he says, it was mine. We then finally land on the final juror, Spencer, who states,
Woo, when I look at your game, I can't help but make this comparison between your strategic play and the behavior of a dog. I mean, Tony was like your master. When he said sit, you sat. When he said the word, you went and played fetch. The LJ vote, the Jeffra blindside. Even in camp life, you were in his pocket 24/7. When it came down to you having an opportunity to take one of the biggest goats in Survivor history to the end, you did what a good dog would do and stayed loyal to your owner. And is there anything you can say to me to convince me that this analogy doesn't make sense?
For someone like you who's been a student in the game, someone who appreciates the game, can you respect me if I took a goat like Cass to the finals?
Yes. As a student of the game, I would expect you to take a goat to the finals.
Who's voting for Woo? Who knows? He might not get any votes. He might get all of them. I mean, people are pretty ticked at Tony. So we go to the live reunion months later, where the votes to reveal who won Cagayan are finally revealed.
First vote, Tony. Woo. One vote Tony, one vote Woo. Tony. 2 votes Tony. Tony. That's 3 votes Tony, 1 vote Woo. Tony. 4 votes Tony, 1 vote Woo. The winner of Survivor Cagayan, Tony.
So let's break this down. How is Woo as a character and how is he as a strategist? Woo is constantly a positive, quiet force on the season. You never heard him say a bad word about anyone. And while he was not the most strategically sound, him aligning with Tony and being his right-hand man actually set himself up to potentially win the whole game. I really, truly believe Woo is 1 move away from winning this whole thing. All he had to do was vote off Tony and not Cass. And I know so many people are going to comment that he should have done that, right? But that's what it comes down to in Survivor sometimes. It's like, who are you as a person? And for Woo, it was more important for him as a person to take Tony to the end. I think Woo thought that was the right choice in terms of his morality, and that's why he chose it. It's an interesting conundrum, not one we see as much anymore in modern Survivor, but interesting that Woo made that choice here. Unfortunately, it will forever overshadow anything else he accomplished this season, for better or worse. However, we can thank Woo for helping Tony become the legend he is to this day, because Tony is a legend. Out of 19 character moments shown on the show, 14 were heroic and 5 were villainous, making Wu a hero character on Survivor, Cagayan, and out of 39 strategic moments shown on the show, 27 were smart and 12 were dumb, making Wu a smart strategist on Survivor, Cagayan. Thanks for watching, and doubly thanks for liking and subscribing. I'll see you all next time.